Using a calculator or otherwise, find the first question here. It says the exact value of, and you have 8.9 plus 31.6, all divided by 0.75 times 5.4. With a problem like this, don't overthink it. Don't put everything on your calculator one time. Kind of work out the top part, work out the bottom part, and then you just go through. So on top, we are talking about 8.9, and you're going to add that to 31.6, and on top, we would have gotten 40.5 on top. Underneath, 0.75 times 5.4, and then we got 4.05. And then you don't need to do anything but to use a calculator to actually do the work, right? And then you will realize that you get 10 for the answer. It says the value of 3.9 tan 18 degrees, and then the specific instruction is correct to 1 decimal place. Still calculator at work. Make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, because there are a number of things that are on the calculator. It could be radians, gradients, or degree. So it's either you see the DEG or you see a D. Anything like this you see stands for degree. So make sure your calculator is on that. And you just literally put this on it. It's a 1 mark question. So it's 3.9 multiplied by tangent of 18. And so I'm going to write what I see first. So I'm seeing 1.267186815. But in response to the specific question here, it says to 1 decimal place, which means then we're going to be rounding off. And if we're going to be rounding off, you want to highlight the number or the digit that is occupying that first decimal place, which is number 2. And then you look to the immediate right, we're looking at 6. So it simply means then, since the number to the right of the spot is in the 5 to 9 category, the spot goes up by 1, and the response that they're looking for is 1.3. It says Rhea is paid at a rate of $13.50 per hour. During a certain week, she worked 40 hours. How much did she earn that week? So this is one of those wages or salary questions. So we're told her basic rate. So she's been paid, so her basic rate speaks to the amount of money that she's paid per hour on a general basis. So she's been paid $13.50 per hour, and her basic week, I won't say basic week is time. We're talking about 40 hours each week. So this person will be working 40 hours every week. So the question is asking how much she earns that week. All right. So we're talking about multiplying the $13.50 by the 40 hours. Since you've been paying $13.50 per hour, you would multiply that by 40 because you're doing 40 hours. So you're making $500 and about $40 to be exact. It says Rhea worked 4 weeks in the month of August. So here is a specific instruction. 4 weeks in the month of August. Her gross salary or gross earning was $2,673. So for that week, for that month, she would have gotten $2,463.75. Her regular week comprised of 40 hours, and overtime is paid at time and a half per hour. All right. So basically, some overtime is included in this question. And whenever this person is working on overtime, they are being paid time and a half, which means that there is a specific rate that they're getting called the overtime rate, which is different from that regular rate that you heard just now. That $13.50 does not apply on overtime. All right. So we're going to have to keep that in mind. And time and a half means that you will actually multiply the regular rate by 1.5 to get the new rate on overtime, only for hours exceeding the 40. Because the 40 hours is regular, and then when you start go over that, just like regular day-to-day thing, you start making a different rate per hour. Let's see what the question really wants. Show that Rhea works 15 hours overtime. All right. What you want to do is isolate the overtime money. Since they're saying that there is overtime, we want to know how much money that she actually would have made in a particular month. So let's go back to the first question here. During a certain week, she worked 40 hours. So we're talking about if she's working 40 hours each week, then you're saying that normally she's going to be paid that money, which is $540, right? So now, 4 weeks, all right? So if you should work out the 540 times 4, you're going to get what this person would have made normally working. So let's look at this. Let's look at what we'll call their basic, I'll say their basic wage, meaning on that normal basis, and we're talking about this is a monthly thing now. For that month, that 4 weeks, it would have been the $540 that this person is making every week times 4, regular. So now this person would actually make $2,160 for that month, but you're seeing that this is not the case. So you're seeing that the person take home $2,463.75, which would have said to you that the person actually worked overtime, because this is what you're expecting out of 4 weeks, and you're seeing more. So we're saying then, let us find the overtime money, because the question is about overtime hours. To find overtime hours, we need overtime money and overtime rate. Let's look on this overtime. I'm going to call it OT. So OT stands for overtime. So the overtime wage would have been your gross. So I'm writing a kind of quick formula. Your gross wage, and you want to take out of that the basic, which is what you would have made on a normal basis. What are we referring to? You're referring to $2,463.75. And then you want to take out of that $2,160. So you're talking about the gross minus the basic to see what extra is hanging. That extra is overtime. So let us take out that. When we take out that, this is what we have. We have overtime wage of $303.75. So this, let me highlight overtime here. This is overtime wage. So overtime wage, $303.75. All right. Now, in order to find or to prove to them that the person worked 15 hours and overtime, what we are going to do now is to find the overtime rate. And if we have the overtime money and the overtime rate per hour, we are able to tell the number of hours very simply. So let us go for the overtime rate. The $13.50 multiplied by 1.5. That will give you about 20, as you said. $20.25, which is the rate on overtime, and that's fine. Now, what we're suggesting now is if you want to know the hours, I'm just kind of labeling this for you. So I'm going to say OT hours, referring to overtime hours. So overtime hours is simply your overtime wage divided by your overtime rate, just like that. And this is going to be $303.75. And you want to divide that by $20.25. And you want to prove that you will get 15. Go ahead. You should get 15. Definitely the answer we got is 15 hours. So we have proven that. So this the other question says, in August, 20% of Rhea's gross earning was deducted as tax. 20%. So you want to pay attention to this. If you notice, I highlight stuff. In August, 20% was deducted as tax. So the question says, how much money does she have left after the deduction? All right, so let us write it down. So we want to write down that August salary or the August wage. We're talking about 2004. Is it 463.75 to be exact? Is that? Yeah. Let me just double check. I think it is. Yes.
2004. Yes, sir.
75. All right. So that is the August month. They are saying to you that 20% will be deducted as tax, and how much. So there are two ways to do this. Josiah, you can either find 20% of this and subtract it, or you can understand that if 20% comes out as tax, how much money you think she will have left as a percentage? What?
80% of
exactly 80%. So you can approach it two ways. The shortest way right now is to understand that if 20% goes, she will be left with 80%. So you can find 80% off the 2,463.75, and you would have gone straight to the answer immediately without have to be subtracting anything at all, immediately. The next question says, Rhea invested. All right, so this one is on the simple interest. It says Rhea invested $200, let me mark this, $219. All right, $219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5 per annum. And it is simple interest. How much interest does she receive after 3 years? There is a formula for simple interest, and the simple interest formula says simple interest, which is I, is equal to your principal times your rate, which is R, times the time, and all of this over 100. Your principal is that money that you start with, which would have been that $219 times the rate, which was given as 4.5, times the time, which is 3 years. And you divide this by 100. $29.57, because I get 565, but you know, money is always to 2 decimal places. So properly rounded off to 2DP, you would have got $29.57. And that would have been the simple interest after 3 years. 2 says factorize completely. Whenever you've been asked to factorize, they won't tell you what type of factorization to employ. You're on your own. So let me write back this bold. So we have 3n squared plus 15np. Observe the numbers, which are the coefficients I'm referring to. We have a 3, we have a 5, we have a 15, so 3 can work with that. And we have n to the second power and n. So 3n is the common factor. So whenever you find a common factor, you open the bracket. Remember that you're going to be dividing, though, the common factor back into all the terms. For example, I'll put it at the side, 3n squared divided by 3n, and you're going to have 15np divided by 3n. That's what you're going to work out to go in the bracket here. So when 3n squared goes into that, 3 cancels itself, n cancel itself, and cancel one of that, leaving just n. And then now 3 into itself, 1, 3 into the 15, 5, n, 1, 1. We're left with positive 5 with a p. All right, so now looking at the other question, it says, the diagram below shows a quadrilateral with the length of its sides written in terms of x. So this is a four-sided figure, quadrilateral, quadri, 4. And the length of the sides is written in terms of x, no problem, right? So it's an expression that you have instead of a value. The question went on to say, write an expression in terms of x for the perimeter of the quadrilateral. Express your answer in the simplest form. So what are we really doing here? You have to pay attention. You're going to write an expression in terms of x for what? The perimeter, the distance along the boundaries, right? So we're referring to, let us start here, talking about 15 minus 2x. You're going to be adding that to 3x minus 7, and you're adding that to 2x plus 5, and you're adding that to 2x again minus 1. Simplifying this will give you the answer. So if you focus on, say, the numbers or whatever you want, doesn't matter. So let's focus on the x terms. I'll highlight them a little bit. You have a negative 2x, a positive 3x, positive 2, positive 2. Let's put together the x terms, right? So we could walk ourselves through it. Negative 2x and a positive 3 will give a positive 1x, or just positive x. All right? So basically, we're seeing x plus 2x and then 2x again. That's going to leave us with 5 of it. So that's 5x. All right. So you have 5x there. So let us look at the numbers now that we have coming out. All right. So we have positive 15, negative 7, positive 5, negative 1. So let's look at the green. So think about 15 minus 7, that's 8. You add 5 to it, that's 13. Take away 1, that's 12. All right, so this is a plus 12. So the perimeter is really 5x plus 12 is 32. So the perimeter of the quadrilateral is 32. Find the length of the longest side. For us to find the length of the longest side, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you need to know if they want the length of the longest side? Not an expression now. We were told that the perimeter is 32. How could we go about organizing ourselves to get that? Plus 12 is the perimeter. And then the next day I told you that the perimeter is 32. Can you actually agree that equating the two ideas is a start? 5x plus 12 is 32. Is that a truthful statement? Now, from here, I'll simply say solve for x. Now, when you solve for x, that's not the answer, but at least it's going to be the tool that will drive your answer. So in solving for x, we do the regular thing. So let me change the marker for that. Maybe a green. We'll subtract 12 from both sides. So we're left with 5x, which is equal to 20. And then in order to find x, you'll divide both sides by 5. So x is equal to 4. So now you have a value for x, but that's not the answer to the question. We do have a value for x, but what we want to do now is to use this value for x to help us to know the length of each side. So to substitute the value for x for all of these. For example, this says 2x minus 1. But if x is 4, the length of this side is 2 times 4 minus 1. And you will agree that this side is 7 centimeters long. So you're able to see that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's how you're going to do all of them. So this other one here, x is still 4. And you have 15 minus 2x, which means 15 minus 2 times 4. Which means 50 minus 8, and this is going to still give you 7 like the other one. So there's another 7 right there. This one here, we have 2x, which means 2 times 4, and then you add 5 to it. 2 4s is 8, plus 5, 13 centimeters for that side. And then now for this one, you have 3x minus 7. Remember that you have x, which is 4. So 3 times 4 minus 7. Basically, 12 minus 7 is 5 centimeters. So let me highlight the sides. One is 7 here. The other one is 7 here. The other one here is 5. And the last one here is 13. Question:
Yes.
length of the longest side. What is the length?
13.
Exactly. So that's all you need to state. Longest side. So I'm just going to write the longest side equals to 13 centimeters. That's all. That longest side is a 13 centimeter side. You're done. Part C. It says determine all the integer values of x which satisfy the inequality. So the integer value of x. All right, determine all the integer values of x. All right, so what you want to do here is you want to solve this inequality first and then see what it is saying, then you respond to the question. So at this moment, you aren't able to do anything, but you need to solve. How do you solve this? You solve it just as though you would have solved a regular equation. What do we notice is going on? All right, what we have here is, change this marker. What we have here is a compound inequality. But definitely to start, you want to get rid of that 3 to get rid of the fraction. So you want to multiply throughout by 3. For example, you're going to multiply this by 3. You're also going to multiply this piece by 3. You're going to multiply that by 3. So you want to multiply 3 by everything. Now, on the left side, and let me put the color over here, put it in yellow. On this side, we're going to get -3 over there, right back that sign. And you will agree that in the middle right here, what happened is this 3 at the bottom would have canceled that 3 there. So you're technically left with 2 minus 4x in the middle, because the 3 would have been canceled. You're right back the same sign. And then you have 15 here. I'll stop there for a moment, allowing you to look and to ask any question that you feel like you would want to ask. If you're okay.
Following, sir.
All right, good. Next move now is that is x you want, you know, so you can't rush it either. X has to stay in the middle, so you want to get rid of that 2 there. This 2 is a positive 2 because in front of it you're not seeing a minus sign. So you're suggesting now how? Well, I'm saying how do you get rid of a 2 that is adding? Because it's not multiplying or dividing, it's adding. So you'd have to do the inverse of adding, which is to take it away, and balance by taking away from everything in the same math, because it's one line. So in this case, you would have had now, you would have had -5, put back your same symbol. Then you have -4x, put back your same symbol, and you have 13. No rush in what you're doing. You're taking your time and you're working it down piece by piece. Now, I'll say this to you. Whenever you're doing inequalities, if you are about to multiply or divide by a negative number, remember, let me repeat. When you're doing inequalities, if you're going to multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the signs. So I'm saying that because at this moment, we want to find x. And in order to find that x, you're going to have to get rid of the -4, which is actually multiplying to the x. So I'm suggesting now that all the signs will just flip. For example, let me rewrite it to do it. This -5 will be divided by -4. This sign will turn like that. So look at the signs. This -4x. Go ahead, ask the question. Listening.
I thought you meant the negative would turn to positive.
Oh, we're talking about the inequality. No, the inequality flips.
Oh,
so
okay.
that is something that you need to embrace. Whenever you divide or multiply. So remember, it's division or multiplication. by a negative number when you're doing inequalities. The greater than or less than sign switch. So you see this one now turn this way now. And then you have 13 divided by the negative 4. Now you're going to write your final response. When two negatives are actually dividing, you will end up with a positive 5, 4. Go back that. The x is now in the middle, greater than 13. Well, this is negative 13 over 4. All right, I could say you could just quickly do this number line. I'm just doing this for you now, for clarity in terms of explanation. No. You want to have a visual of what negative 13 divided by 4 is. So it is like negative 3 1/4. So I'm going to put it over the negative side. It's negative 3.25. That's what it is, right? Okay. Which is, yeah. And then now 5 over 4, you know, in your little own world, you want to have a value for it. It's a 0 is somewhere here, and then positive 1.25. 5 over 4 is 1 1/4. So x is between this, you know, x is bounded between this and this. Understand? X is between that. In other words, then, I'm going to put x in a little blue thing. Let me use red along that. So x would have been on the number line there. That's what we're saying. Between that. So the question now that you're going to have to focus back on is this. It is saying determine all integers. So you need to know what are integers. What's unique about integers is that it has no decimal or fraction. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So that's the key thing. So an integer is simply all numbers and the negative of the all numbers. So you think about all numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3 in that fashion. Then the negative of those, negative 1, negative 2, blah, blah, blah. So we're saying these are integers. So when the question now said, determine all the integers or the integer values of x that satisfy this. This is telling you, if you're supposed to read this, come back here. This is saying that x is less than 1.25, but it is greater than negative 3.2. This is what it is saying. So greater than, in other words, then, greater than is going that way, less than is coming this way. So it is between that, as I was saying, right between here. So then, you're talking about a negative 3 there, negative 2, negative 1, 0, and a 1. Look at these values and see if you would agree that they are the integer value within this little interval here. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. This is the answer to the question. Determine all the integer values of x which satisfy the inequality. And you would have told these.